Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's football show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It is Tuesday, the 9th of June. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, and Hugh McDonald are here with me. Delighted you could join us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Periscope as well. And over the course of the next hour or so, we will shoot the breeze with a one-to-one with Nicky Devlin of Livingston. Really looking forward to locking horns with Nicky. He had some good chat talking about his teammates, his performances, and of course Livingston in that sterling season they had right up until the coronavirus lockdown, Roughie, because Livingston were very much the surprise outfit. Is that fair? Well, trust me to ask Roughie a question, Hugh McDonald, just as he throws it. The old technological stuff's killing us.
I can answer it though, Peter, because I think you're right. I think it would be if you take outside Neil Lennon as the manager of the title-winning team. I think that Stephen Robinson at Motherwell and Gary Holt at Livingston would be the two strongest contenders for manager of the year. I think not only what Livingston did in terms of organisation, Peter, and obviously, you know, playing on their own part, but the way they went about their business and the way they played some really good stuff last season as well, as we now call it. And of course, they had one of the most fascinating characters in the team, Lyndon Dykes, who we're going to hear much more about, not only today in the show, about throughout the close season, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust you to freeze, Roughie, when Hugh and I had agreed to split our money from the lottery with you. But if you couldn't hear it, then there's no real point in sharing that money now. And there you are. Can't even hear him, Hugh. He's having a mare. Honest.
You're left him dumbstruck with that.
Yeah. I have to say, Billy Mackay. Go on then, Hugh.
No,
we're having an absolute mare.
I was just thinking about, on the Livingston situation, about teams from last season and going forward, Peter, and how their set-up last season was so perfect and worked so well. And just wonder what the coronavirus will do to them and possibly losing players as well.
Yeah, that's the crucial thing, and I could advise that a million. Look at his bald face frozen there, and he'll shake his head and wonder why he's not on, because if he hasn't got a spare battery for his mic, Hugh, he's goosed for the. Can you hear us, Roughie? Well, that's fantastic. Doesn't look as if we're getting Roughie on the programme today because his microphone's not working. Apologies for that. So he probably needs a new battery in it. And look, his face is just about to go red with anger. But we'll get back to Roughie. I can read him like a book. That's by the way, Hugh, that's you and I, 8 years of being with him. We know that his microphone's not working.
8 years of his batteries have run out, and they've run out in the microphone as well.
Yes, absolutely. So hopefully with a bit of luck, we'll get back to Roughie. But the reason why I was mentioning the name Billy Mackay, he's in Singapore. So Billy, thank you very much for supporting us. Alistair Blythe's in Edmonton. George Gerry, his son's an Aberdeen fan. Peter Waters contacted us on social media today. And the reason why I'm giving Peter a special mention is Peter is one of those guys who goes on, I think might be Facebook, and sings his own material, Hugh. Now, I don't know about you. He looks as if he could be an extra for the band Oasis, but he plays his own music, which he's got deserves tremendous credit for. He's a big fan of the show, and anybody who goes on there and entertains people deserves a special mention. I don't know about you, Hugh, but
absolutely, and how social media and Facebook's and Twitter and YouTube has been a wonderful consolation in this coronavirus, Peter, where you come across stuff every day, you know, people posting old matches, old goals, songs, celebrations, old pictures of teams going back to the 1930s, etc., etc. I love it. I mean, I spend an hour at night flicking through Twitter for all those old goals. I mean, one of the crazy things about, and I suppose a lot of our viewers will identify with this, is actually about 11:30 at night, when you're ready to go to bed, coming on Scotland versus England from 19 Canteen and catching 5 minutes of it, and then finding it's 1:30 in the morning and you watched all 90 minutes. Welcome to my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Gone are the days, Hugh, when your ma sent you to bed, and then that was it. The light went out, and the lights went out, and that's it. So it's like that. Now, I've got to mention here, Peter Waters did mention, he says, I wonder whether will be pay-per-view games. That was the main crux of what Peter was sending a message to. Is he says, if there is indeed a season ticket, what's to stop everybody, all their mates, just all nipping round to each other's house and just watching it on one season ticket? And then he said, you know, I mean, that in itself, Hugh, is the big dilemma here. How the season tickets work. Obviously, if you've got a season ticket for your team, you'll get the live football free up until times when it's okay to go back into a ground. That's how this whole thing will work. If you want to watch them away from home and it's not on Sky, it might be the one-off game that you can pay for individually.
Yeah, it's a very so what they call a very fluid situation, Peter. And there's a couple of anomalies which are quite troubling. One of the anomalies is that, you know, if you have 3 season ticket holders in the one house, all paying 600 quid, say, for roughly, so they're paying the best part of £2,000 to watch games on an iPad or a computer. The other aspect of it, which is troubling for the clubs, is that Sky will put a limit that only you can only stream to season ticket holders. Which obviously cuts off a revenue stream, because there'd be a lot of people, I would presume, even on a one-off basis, that would want to pick specific games. So there's a couple of really severe wrinkles in this, Peter, but it's hard to be too condemnatory of either the clubs or Sky in this, because everybody's at the moment just feeling their way forward on this, because it really is that much overused word, but it is unprecedented.
Little twist in the tail. Colin Robertson says relegation is now illegal in France, illegal in Belgium, only in Scotland. This is, of course, something being contested in the courts over there, which clearly Hearts will jump on.
Yeah, I think, I mean, just what stage Hearts will be at. I think they'll wait for formally today, today will probably see the end of reconstruction, you know, plans for at least next season, Peter. And I think Hearts will move pretty swiftly after that to go on to the next process. Whether that be legal or whether that be a matter of acceptance, I don't really know. Most people would think that from the noises coming out of Tynecastle, that it might be the legal route they go down.
Yeah, Jeanette McGinn says, Peter, at this rate, you'll be doing the show on your own. We've done that before. Hi to technology, Hugh. Hi to Dave McCann. Is a good lad. I always see Dave at the football grounds, just giving me the odd wave here and there. So great to have him. Jeanette, thank you very much for that lovely message. John Strelecki joins us. Declan Dalgleish, what a famous name that is. Ian McDougall. There are so many people joining us, and thank you very much for all the support. You can like, share and follow us on our Facebook, and of course across YouTube as well. You can subscribe, and we're on Periscope too. 1-to-1 with Nicky Devlin coming up. Lots to talk about. I would just say, Hugh, and I hate to kill off something that we all love to do, but, you know, when I was a boy, we used to love getting up, reading the paper, and then saying to myself as I was reading the paper, I wonder if Roughie's put a battery in his mic. I wonder if he's going to be back with us shortly. Hey, go on then. Well, you might as well try. Is it working? No, it's not. There you go. Honestly, that's, you know what that's called, Roughie? That's called coming on in good time to prepare. So he looks as if he's absolutely goosed. So it's the Peter and Hugh show today with Roughie
back to the old
sitting
days.
there. Yeah, but I have to tell him, Roughie, you have to completely sign out and then come back in again, and it might work. Way, there you have it. Do you want me to tell you something? I feel as if I'm with Roughie for 8 years, Hugh. I am Brian Cant. Do you know who Brian Cant was? And I tread carefully with the pronunciation. He used to present Play School.
Oh, yes.
So there you have it. That's me taking him through it all. Just I hate to do in our profession, Hugh, but honestly, if I read one more headline about Celtic or Rangers being interested in a player, and then the headline is followed by, and it looks as if it could cost 10 million.
Yeah, quite.
No.
The state of Scottish football at the moment would suggest to me that I mean, I was surprised that Hadji came, Peter, to be honest with you as well, because I didn't, good on Rangers for getting that over the line, Ross Wilson for getting that over the line, but I just didn't see any definitive steps being taken to things clear up a little bit more. I know Rangers are still chasing another player from Leicester, but that'll be probably a six-figure sum, and a sort of compensation deal. Celtic will still be, Nicky Hammond will still be scouring the country and beyond for deals, but I think at the moment everything is almost in the day, Peter, because it's changing so quickly. One of the interesting things about it is that players might stay who might otherwise have gone. We've listened to Neil Lennon over the weekend talking about Odson Edward talks, etc., etc. And that might be, I mean, I was sure he would go in the summer, and my sources were telling me that he was almost certain to go during the summer. But that now seems to be not as sure a situation as it once was.
Yeah, absolutely, because quite simply, money is the driving force in all of this. Trying to get the maximum amount you can. And of course, another year will not, dare I say, kill Odson Edouard staying in the Scottish Premiership till everything gets back on a completely level playing field. And Dave McCann says, hi, Peter, Celtic are completely out of order with the virtual season ticket arrangement. Now, this is going to come, under the microscope. And I can understand where Dave's coming from because, to be honest with you, apart from people you've mentioned that are and I'm not just talking about Celtic, I'm talking about every Premier League club in Scotland. Apart from the 2 or 3 people who've got season tickets in the house, some people pay a hefty season ticket, Hugh, for where they're situated in the stand. So they're paying slightly more. So I don't know how they're being recompensed, how many people asked for the money back from last season, and what they're going to get basically for this virtual season ticket for next season, and how long that will last, because it's very, very vague, and in a way it suits the clubs to keep it that way so that they're preying on fans' loyalty, Hugh, at a difficult time.
Absolutely, it'll be fans' loyalty because, I mean, frankly, the season tickets are not being reduced. The season tickets in a household who presumably be watching on the one device have not been changed to accommodate that reality. What fans are really being asked to do is to show their faith, to show their support. But I've got a lot of sympathy for supporters in this as well, because it's not just a matter of everything's going along nice and we can suck it up for a season. There's a lot of fans who will be in real difficulty financially, Peter, and there's going to be some heart-rending decisions for fans in the matter. I think as well, I agree with you with clubs not being clear. I think it would be best if all clubs came out and said, listen, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Nobody knows. But this is what we think might happen, and this is what we're trying to address. The reason we're trying to put out season tickets, for example, is we've got X amount of money to pay to keep the doors open. We've got X amount of salaries to pay to keep the standard of the team on the park and the same. This is why we're maintaining the prices instead of dropping them, etc., etc. And really to treat fans as grown-ups and then allow fans to make decisions that are informed by the reality of what the clubs are experiencing at the moment.
Yeah, Niall says Big Roughie looks stressed. Hope he hasn't stuck the ice cubes in the generator again. Of course, and Johnny Maloney says it's the best he's sounded all season. so there you are. There's absolutely no sympathy for Roughie whatsoever. But anyway, as I say on many an occasion, Hugh, if you fail to prepare to fail. It's as simple as that. You know, it's as simple as that with him.
Yeah, you've got to be on about you've got to be in the dressing room early, Peter. It's you got to be in the dressing room early. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. So I have to say thank you to Hugh Hepburn, Dougie Liddell, Brian Hughes, lots of people. Neil Thompson says, I renewed 3 season books today, 2 adults and a kids, at 1,140. So Neil's quite happy to do that. And by the way, I absolutely get it for someone like Neil who's able to put out over £1,000 on the tickets and he's happy for the cause, for whatever. That's fine. But there are some people in life who don't have spare cash, and every penny that they are scrambling together is because they want to go and follow their favourite club. And there's a wee bit of give and take. So not everybody is able to shell the money out. And the other thing that a lot of people will find out shortly, Hugh, coming up over the next couple of months, when they actually sit down at a meeting in a boardroom and say, well, how many season tickets have gone? A lot of clubs will say, well, there's a lot of people who were season tickets last season who have lost their jobs and can't afford to buy season tickets.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, football is part of a wider society. We know this. If you're reading the front pages rather than the back pages of newspapers, you'll see that not only is Scotland deep into a recession at the moment with jobs going daily, but that this will continue. This doesn't, the whole economic bounce back doesn't come into play the minute the lockdown ends, Peter. There's going to be long-term economic damage to this, and it's got to impact on football. It impacts on the business of football itself, but it impacts on people who support football. There'll be people, we've said it before, there'll be people who will be sitting this summer going through their standing orders with a big black pen and trying to cut things down. And when you're trying to cut things down, and we know how football is so important to all of us, but it's not as important as paying your lecky bill. It's not as important as paying, your tax. It's not as important as putting food on your family's table. It's one of the, it's that great expression. It's probably the most important of the least of the unimportant things. And it stands very, very vulnerable to people saying, do you know what? I just can't afford this anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of people, are talking about the fact that they will absolutely pay the money to see their club. They're big fans, and they don't really care how much it costs. That's fine. There are Hibs fans who are posting messages to us. And Ninth Legion says, I would expect Celtic to recompense the fans at a future date. Don't hold your breath on that one, Ninth Legion, may I tell you. And a lot of people want to talk about the fact that I love Hibs, I will support them financially, says Kevin McFarlane. So can non-season ticket holders buy a subscription to watch the game, says Norman Heaney as well. Well, I think there's got to be, Hugh, a one-off payment to watch a game if you want. There can't be a situation where it's all in or nothing. That, for me, is tantamount to stupidity.
Well, it's also under the Sky contract. Sky are holding clubs to say, no, you can't exceed the number of season ticket holders. You can't. It has to be only season ticket holders who are allowed to stream games. Now, that is the situation at the moment. I think the situation is so fluid that Sky and the SPFL will continue talks on that. But as it stands at the moment, Peter, it's restricted to season ticket holders at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can get a one-off if you want to follow the away game. Anthony Shepherd, listen to this one, Hugh, on YouTube. This is serious stuff, by the way. Anthony Shepherd says, hi, hi, Martin, which just shows you how highly he rates me. He says, hi, Martin. Don't Anthony Shepherd here from Swansea. I love listening to Hugh McDonald. He's up there with the legend Hugh McIlvanney, in my opinion. Now, Hugh, if you're going to get your cousins to write in, for God's sake, that's just over the top, isn't it?
It is, Peter. It is genuinely over the top, and the words "not in the same not in the same sentence" comes to mind.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, it's funny actually, because I know you're great friends with him, and I was lucky enough to be in his company on more than a few occasions. And if you scroll, and I make no bones about telling you this, I have no shame whatsoever, if you scroll down our YouTube channel and sift through the one-to-one interviews, you will find my one-to-one interview with the great Hugh McIlvanney, which is just basically me, open-jawed, listening to the man, talking about football, talking about the great managers, and then eventually I get him to talk about Muhammad Ali. It was brilliant. Best day ever.
It was a fantastic interview, and as I was hovering on the edges of it, because I think I was going to lunch with him after that, Peter, and
you were.
He loved it. I can say he loved it. I used to, when he came to Glasgow, and he used to go down and stay with his beloved niece, one of his beloved nieces in Troon, and I always made sure that when we're having a drink in Glasgow, me as a teetotaler would always drive him down to Troon. And he used to say to me, this is extraordinarily generous of you. And I said, no. He says, you've got to pay for the trip. And the first time he said, how am I going to pay for this trip? I said, I want Ali stories all the way up, way down. I said, I've got a CD for coming back up the road, so I'm not bothered about that. And the stuff I heard about Muhammad Ali, for those who don't know who Hugh McIlvanney was, he was the greatest sports writer of the 20th century for me. And he was a very close friend and a close acquaintance and an ally to Muhammad Ali. So after the Rumble in the Jungle, for example, Peter, he and Ken Jones of the Daily Mirror went and spent the evening with Ali after the fight, reliving the fight and what it meant. So you can imagine those kind of stories as you're tootling down towards Troon. Not a bad journey, Peter.
Oh, fantastic. Hugh, it doesn't get any better, believe me. And I've started watching, and it brings me nicely to our next point. I didn't actually force you into this segue. I've got to give a mention to a few people who have said hello. Dave Edwards, who's actually in Australia. And Dave Edwards is really, like so many from near and far, who are sending us messages on YouTube and on Facebook as well. So, Dave, great to have you on board with us. All I would say is, Muhammad Ali standing up for his beliefs, standing up for the black people in America at a time when he was deemed to be very, very unpopular. Now, suddenly from what I call the absolute tragedy of George Floyd, we have a situation where this has mushroomed across the world, Hugh, still with the issue of race at its core, but people are starting now to add various strings to this argument. And Raheem Sterling spoke about the lack of black managers in the top flight in football. I mean, we only have one at Kilmarnock, in the top flight. We had John Barnes at Celtic all those years ago. It didn't work out for him. But I wonder if we all, as a society, and certainly in Scottish football, need to address this issue. I mean, it can't just be about hearing Raheem Sterling saying it in England.
I agree totally, Peter. It's a thing where we have, and I think speaking as part of the media, we have ignored, certainly, and I take my share of the blame in that, and not pushing for real positive action to increase the number of black or people in the higher echelons of the game. I mean, I thought Raheem Sterling, who was really passionate and wonderfully eloquent about it. He made the absolutely fantastic point that he said, if you look at the likes of it, and I'm not blaming these individuals, I'm just saying they've been beneficiaries. People like Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard moving into big jobs fairly quickly. In fact, almost immediately, and saying, well, what happened to Sol Campbell? Why would he not move into a big job very, very quickly? And others of the same ethnicity, and it's stunning as you look across the game as a whole, the governance of the game, management and coaches, that we don't have that representation. Wonderfully in the Scottish international setup, we've got two coaches, Alec Dyer and Stephen Reid at the high end of that. But it's time now, and is it time now to bring in what they used to call in America the Rooney Rule? It was called, nothing to do with Wayne Rooney. It was to do with a head coach in the NFL, and that was that every shortlist for a job must have a black candidate. Is it time to say positive discrimination, that a certain amount of coaches must be black? I really think it's time for us to have a real proper conversation about this, Peter. And I know the uproar that will follow, but we've got to back all these nice words. See people tweeting on, or tweeting or putting on social media, this, that. Yeah, but we really need action now. We need to do something.
Yeah, it is a good point you make, Hugh, because Raheem Sterling pointed out there are 500 players in the English Premier League. A third of them playing are black. It does raise an issue. This whole thing has opened out into all forms of society and how people are treated. Listen, you could take it even further than that, believe me, on people that have been discriminated against. We have a country with many centuries of a disappointing history. So I think Raheem Sterling is right to do it. And all those years ago when Muhammad Ali did it, he was vilified, pilloried, ridiculed in many quarters. Even I would say to you, Colin Kaepernick was in the same category. Absolutely. And obviously ridiculed all those years ago. And suddenly the NFL have the audacity to come out now and say that it's okay to take a knee because public opinion has forced them that way. That's the problem with it, Hugh.
Absolutely. Kaepernick remains one of the greatest sporting heroes. He sacrificed his career because of his beliefs. And when they see sometimes protests which maybe get out of hand, maybe become violent, they always shout, why can't you protest peacefully? Colin Kaepernick has been protesting peacefully for 4 years. And every time he protests peacefully, he was absolutely slaughtered in the press, vilified, received threats, merely for protesting peacefully. Martin Luther King in the early 60s in Selma and other places, completely and utterly was a peaceful protest he did. What was his reward? A bullet standing on the veranda in a hotel in Memphis. That was his reward for peaceful protest as well. And that was over 50 years ago, Peter. So, I mean, this has been a long-running thing, and we can all point fingers to America where it's so stark, but it's also here in our country as well, and it's something that must be addressed.
Yep, absolutely. Frankie Gilmer wants something addressed to you, which I don't know if I'm guilty of it or not, but Frankie says, Peter, I listen to the show every day. You give everybody else a mention except me. Do you not like me? So this is a case of Frankie's. I'm giving you a mention. I genuinely do not know. Yeah, absolutely. And Gary is worried about Roughie and what's happened to him. I'll tell you what's happened to him. He's got something that I bought him, which cost me a lot of money. I handed it over to him with a battery in it, and I said to him, you need to get spares. Now, here's how you plug it in. Here's how you put it down. And then I went out and I bought him a microphone stand so that he wouldn't need to touch it. Because you remember he liked thumping it off his knee. We went through that on the show. And then I handed him over, and it was called an idiot-proof broadcaster's guide. And all he had to do, Hugh, was make sure he had spare batteries. Now, come on.
Oh, I know.
I mean, honestly.
I know all this is true because the wonderful...
Because you have one.
The wonderful... yeah, because the wonderful Ian Maguire, one of the great backups that makes this show totally doable in terms of technology, even gets to the stage, Peter, that I get a text every morning to say, remember to charge your iPad. So that's the kind of level of service me and Roughie get from the boys at PLZ.
Yeah, it's all there, to be honest with you, Hugh. Listen, lots of people are getting mentions. Thanks to Arthur Hastings. Thanks to Neil Thompson, Michael Matheson, also Alison Sarah Carroll, who says, Peter, could you say hello to Roughie for me? I could if he was here, Alison, to be perfectly honest with you. Listen, lots of other stories. 1-to-1 with Nicky Devlin. Nicky Campbell. Well, there you are. I've given him an extra mention. Nicky Devlin is coming on from Livingston very shortly on our 1-to-1. A couple of things I want to get your thoughts on. We'll discuss, of course, some of the transfer speculation, but I would suggest right now Ian Maxwell's words will ring true very shortly, Hugh. He's obviously sent a letter out to all the Premiership clubs saying, look, you must adhere to the rules that are in place or we won't get anywhere near this August 1st start. Now, I think they're going to have to be vigilant because I think the fear will start to envelop so many of the clubs if one person suddenly gets the coronavirus. Now, I know we are heading in a really downward trend in the graph for people who have contracted it, so that's a good sign. So they're hoping that it can continue in this vein. We can be vigilant, we can get the testing in there, we can pay, £3,000-4,500 a week for the testing. And then over and above that, the Championship, Hugh, is possible looking at October 17th for a start.
Yeah, with always the caveats, Peter, that everything is so fluid in this situation. But Ian Maxwell's right to uphold the absolute protocols that have to be going through here, because it was kind of messy around the edges a couple of weeks ago with English Premier League clubs. There was situations of, would some clubs come back early to train? Would full contact training creep in? Would testing not be adhered to properly? We've had a couple of instances in the Bundesliga of sheer, what can only be called in the early days of the Bundesliga comeback, daft behaviour. Absolutely daft behaviour. So that has to be stopped as well. So I think he's wanting to keep very much the great train of football firmly on the tracks.
Brian McNair says, well, if that's the case, Peter, why don't you have black players on your panel? Well, I have to be honest with you, over the 8 years, we have had black players on our panel. We had Kevin Harper for quite a considerable time. He was the Albion Rovers manager up until a wee while ago as well. And we regularly used Kevin on a weekly basis. So it just depends on which way your head's wired and how you go about business. I mean, I look at Alec Dyer and I just think simply there's the commandant boss. The responsibility. Some people say, "Well, why don't you have a woman in the early days as well? You need to have a woman." I had people at Radio Clyde who were women who were in there not because they were women, just because they were good at their jobs. Hugh, it just depends on what way your head's wired. If you consciously are discriminating against people, and remember, Hugh. Listen, they can tub thump and people can, take a knee and people can say great words and post all their messages and hold up their show racism, the red card all the time they want. But you actually have to do things. And we as a country, especially Scotland, have a lot of problems that we would need to address over and above the black issue, the whole umbrella of sectarianism, of racism, all of these things. And people discriminate for other reasons as well. There's a real undercurrent of people who will possibly make conscious decisions to say, I'm not going to hire him because I'm not going to hire her because she's, and just list all the things that they discriminate against. Prejudice comes in many forms, Hugh.
It does indeed, and the whole answer to it all is education, and education allied with opportunity. And you'll see that I think that we move forward quickly on both of these. I think it's such a human condition to be discriminatory that that perhaps very depressively, I don't think we'll ever be rid of it, but we can certainly do a lot to alleviate it and improve it. I was much moved by the words of Patrice Evra. I was listening to him last night, and he was saying no child is born racist or prejudiced or discriminatory. So, so what we really do is to protect that beautiful ambience of childhood where we didn't have that in us, and that we get educated to keep it from us.
Yeah, well, I get slaughtered on this programme about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Hugh, from a lady who wasn't happy when I was absolutely battering some of the morons who poison our chat feed here on the YouTube and on Facebook. And she slaughtered me basically because I said, you're a product of your parents, and some people have been dragged up. But that is the truth. It's as simple as that. You get your parents instill the foundations in you. Hopefully, the school that you go to, supplements that with the same way, the right and proper way to treat people, regardless of race, creed, or colour. And that is the progress. But the main foundations come from your parents, and that's the key issue here. I think a lot of older people who are parenting need educated as well. And sometimes when I go out as an ambassador for Show Racism, the Red Card, I sometimes hope, along with the great work that Derek Ferguson does and Mickey Weir through in the East, I hope that they actually pass it on to the kids so they can educate their parents in the errors of their ways.
Yeah, and kids can do that, Peter, because there's certain words that could enter the vocabulary, certain of a man of my age, round about sort of maybe quarter of a century or more ago, the way you refer to, shall we say, maybe a Chinese restaurant, or the way you refer to a corner shop as well, and they become part of the normal vocabulary of working class Glasgow life. And I had to be educated by my kids who said, Dad, you can't call that these names anymore. My daughter was 12 when she was telling me that. Now, instead of pushing back against that, I went, do you know what? You're educating me. You're right. If you're sitting down and telling me that, you're right. So, I mean, I'm not putting myself up as one of these, above it. Certainly 25 years ago, in terms of language and the way we all, well, not all spoke, but maybe the way a certain generation spoke, it was full of really sort of denigratory language, and frankly, Peter, that's been removed from me. Because I was educated, and it was education that removed it from me.
Yeah, Don Clark has said, I've just spotted Roughie in the queue buying a battery. So that gives you an indication of what's happening here. To be perfectly honest with you, we lost Roughie early on, and he hasn't recovered. By the way, and I can tell you right now, he's sending out his family to get a battery. He's not moving, because that's what footballers do. They're cocooned for 20 years of their life, and then when they stop playing football, they wonder what's happened. We've talked about the championship. We've talked about the need for everyone to get back following the guidelines with regards to COVID-19. Let's talk about some of the old proposals. Reconstruction. I haven't heard hide nor hair of it, Hugh. I haven't heard anything that suggests that there's anything going to be implemented. Well, we've had 2 or 3 days of nothing. I mean, I've heard Willie Miller in the Aberdeen Evening Express mentioning the fact that he says now's not the time for Rangers radical reform with the Colts sides or the B sides of Celtic and Rangers. I mean, I agree with Willie Miller on that, because I think that's just the perfect ruse for Celtic and Rangers to get more money, Hugh.
Yeah, and I mean, Jim McInally was very, very strong on it as well. The bold Jim, never a man to mince his words, God bless him, wonderful chap, who just said, why should the lower clubs be coaching your players? Why should we be helping to develop Celtic and Rangers players? And the answer to that is a pretty obvious one. I think we've stuck to the line from day one in this, and taking some pelters for it for being negative in this show, you and I in particular, about saying that reconstruction, while we were all for it, just wasn't going to happen, and it wasn't going to happen for the usual reasons, and again. Peter, the only thing that will bring reconstruction in will be pragmatics, and that will be if once football gets up and running, we suddenly find that although football's up and running, some of our clubs are not up and running, and we have to fiddle about with leagues to accommodate clubs that, frankly, have just succumbed to the coronavirus.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks to so many people who are putting messages up with regards to what's happening. Listen, we're going to go now to an interview that I did earlier with Livingston's fullback, Nicky Devlin. Well, I'm delighted to say joining us on the Football Show, our special guest is Livingston fullback Nicky Devlin. Nicky, hopefully you're safe and well. How have you been handling this lockdown?
Yes, it's been okay. Probably similar to most people, most footballers. It's a bit frustrating, but I mean, you just kind of got to go on with it. There's not really much we can do. So, it's as good as it probably can be, to be honest.
The big question, of course, for every footballer is when do we get back? When are we allowed to get back on that field of play? Now, August 1st seems to be the proposed date, but there has to be a number of safety measures followed. As a professional footballer, are you worried about going back to training, full contact, and the daily rigours of making sure that you're going to be tested?
Yeah, listen, it's definitely going to be different whenever you do eventually go back, because as you said, there's going to be different kind of measures in place to keep everybody safe. But we've just kind of, as footballers, maybe just got to trust the experts in the field that it is safe to go back, and we're not kind of putting ourselves or family members or the public at risk by doing so. So we just kind of, as I said, as players, you've got to trust the experts on it.
Yeah, and getting back playing football, it's going to be quite strange because there's not going to be any fans there.
Yeah, no, it's I think definitely some of the kind of the bigger grounds you go to, that'll be a lot more kind of probably noticeable. Kind of likes of Ibrox and Parkhead, kind of playing at empty stadiums would be a wee bit different. But listen, it's something we're going to have to get on with, and everyone's going to have to adapt to it. So I'm sure everyone's just kind of looking forward to football getting back though.
Your guys have been doing a great job in that division. It just ended at the point where you didn't want it to end. Yeah. It's an amazing season.
Yeah, no, it was. I think, I mean, as you said, I don't think really any club kind of wanted it to end the way it did. But I mean, we were on a kind of good run of form. We were doing well, but it got cut short, and I mean, we had kind of aspirations to push on the last period of the season, but listen, it wasn't. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for us, and we just kind of got to use that next year and try and build on this.
Do you think the team got the credit it deserved? Because the times I watched Livingston, I thought it was maybe slightly unkind to suggest that you were a lump the ball forward physical team. There was a lot of really good footballers on your side. Yeah,
definitely. I think, listen, we've got that tag now, and I don't really think that will ever go away, to be honest. Listen, we make the most of set pieces. We are a big physical side. We make the most of set pieces, but as you said, we've got players in there that technically, I mean, they don't want to kind of have the ball going back to front straight away. As I said to you earlier, like to Stephen Lawless, Craig Sibbald, Pittman, I mean, Ayman Souda, the attacking players we've got, they don't want to be on the end of the long balls all the and listen, we've got that tag now. I think I said before, it's teams that aren't doing as well as us that kind of give us that tag. It's not the teams that are doing better.
Well, the whole world's full of football purists, but there are many ways to win a football game, Nicky.
Yeah, no, definitely. And listen, I think out with the kind of the top two. I think we were joint high scorers this season with Motherwell. So listen, it's the way we play and the style of play we've got, it works out. And while it's working, why would you ever change it?
Yeah. How do you view your season?
Personally, it wasn't obviously the best. I played about 11 games, 10 at the start of the season. Kind of got the injury, and then I only came back for one game, and then the season got cancelled. So, listen, it's not the best for me. It was good to kind of get back up the road though and playing in the Premier League. So I do have kind of played all the teams this year, so I'll just kind of build on that for next year. But listen, as a club, it was a fantastic season.
I know you'll be itching to try and make sure there's a place there in a regular starting place. Have you had a word with the manager about your ambitions? Do you get that chance to get that one-to-one with him?
Yeah, listen, the manager, all the coaching staff are really kind of open, and they'll tell you what their plans are for you, what the plans are for the team, and listen, you can let them know as well what you're feeling. I've not spoke to the coaching staff about wanting to kind of establish myself. I would just hope to do that next season. It's one of them, if maybe throughout the season it doesn't go well for me, I'll maybe go in and speak to them, but I've not spoke to anyone about that yet, no.
Yeah, on that season in particular, was there anyone that you thought came up against you and you thought, tidy, always good, difficult to play against?
Listen, when you play against the top two teams, it's hard. It's difficult. They've got kind of talent, all the way through the team. I think obviously with Celtic, with Edouard, he kind of seems to be on a bit of a different level than anyone else. He didn't score against us, but you could see kind of how threatening he was, and how dangerous he was up on the pitch, and how kind of well he's going to kind of do in his career going forward. Both teams have got, the top two teams have got players that on their day can really kind of damage you and give you real problems.
You've got a player in your ranks yourselves that can give people real problems. Lyndon Dykes, how highly do you rate him?
Yeah. Listen, he's been brilliant this year. He's added probably more goals to his game than he has for the previous years. He's probably not scored as many apart from this season, so he's added that to what we kind of a good starting base for him, and he's got a bit of everything. He can kind of, as a striker, he's good at holding it up. He's good in the air. He's strong. Can run the channels. He's quick. So he does. He's got a bit of, and I'm sure it will be a kind of for the club to try and hold on to him. I'm sure there'll be quite a few teams try to take him off us.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because he's been linked with both Celtic and Rangers up here. Undoubtedly, scouts from down south will be looking at him. If Celtic and Rangers were in a race for him, where do you think he'd be better suited? You, more than anyone, will have seen him in a day-to-day.
Yeah, if they seen him day to day, they probably wouldn't want to sign him. But no, I'm not sure. Listen, he's both kind of Celtic and Rangers almost play a kind of style, and they dominate possession. They try and cut you open, but for both of them, the fact that they could have that kind of different. If they were chasing a game or it wasn't going well for them, they can maybe go longer to Linden. And listen, as I said, he's brilliant. He's fantastic in the air. He wins a lot of headers, puts a lot of people under pressure. So I think he would be a good fit for both of them. Fingers crossed, he's still a good fit for Livingston next season. Listen, when Celtic Rangers come calling, sometimes it's hard for players to turn that down.
Yeah, do you get the feeling you're in the last months of just having him as a teammate?
Listen, it could be. I don't really spoke to Lyndon about that. Hopefully, as I said, hopefully not, because he was fantastic for us this season. He caused every defence we played against problems. There wasn't many defenders probably came off after the game and enjoyed playing against him. So listen, fingers crossed it's not, but if it is, I'm sure he'll go with the blessings of everyone at the club, because he's been brilliant.
How good's your manager?
Yeah, very, very good. And it shows from last year to this year, when I think a lot of probably pundits and people in the press all thought we were going to really struggle, especially with the amount of players that the club did lose in the summer. And it kind of speaks volumes for himself and all the coaching staff's recruitment, get players in that have kind of matched, if not bettered, the squad from last year.
You played down at Walsall. What's the difference in the level and the style of football that you're playing up here?
I just think physically down there it's just, I don't mean it's harder, but it's just much more demanding. There's a minimum of 46 league games down there, so you're talking, if you're playing 46 league games up here, or 46 games in a season up here, you're probably getting a good run in both the cups. So that's just the league games down there. There's a lot of midweek games. There's a lot of travelling. So it's just physically, I think it's more demanding. Styles, listen, apart from a couple of clubs down there, I think every club up here would definitely hold their own down in kind of League One. Obviously, you've got a few big clubs in League One just now. But I think for me, definitely the biggest difference was just how much you had to be ready to play every 2 or 3 days.
And if you are coming back to a new season, would you be happier if it was a bigger league? Because obviously, some clubs look at it and say, okay, if it becomes a 14-team league, maybe there's a better chance of avoiding getting caught up in that relegation battle, because the Premier League at times seems to be so cutthroat.
Yeah, no, listen, I probably am quite a big fan of expanding the league and making it a bit bigger. I think it would add a bit more excitement to the league. Just obviously, I don't know how everything would work in terms of how many times you would play every team, but it can become quite monotonous how many times you play the exact same team over the course of a season. A few years ago, I think when I was at Ayr, we played St Mirren 7 times in the one season, just because of drew them in the cups as well as the league games. So it would make it a wee bit more exciting for fans going to probably different grounds that they maybe hadn't been to for a while or years. So I think it would make it definitely make it more competitive. And listen, I would be all for it.
Yeah, finally, you've made a rod for your own backs. Your guys there, 5th place finish. So this season coming, they start to get to know the way you play, your style. They get to know you a bit better. Can this squad achieve similar feats this?
Listen, it's definitely what we've got to aim for. Listen, we know how hard it will be, and I would imagine some of the kind of teams in our league that maybe didn't perform as well as they'd hoped this year will be better next year, and that's just kind of something we've got to rise to that challenge. I'm sure the club will be doing their best to try and improve the squad as best we can. We've already kind of signed Alan Forrest, who kind of I know from Ayr, and I'm guessing he'll bring us something different. He'll hopefully, as I said, improve the squad that we've already got, and if we can hold on to the majority of the squad just now and add to that, then listen, there's no reason why we can't have as good a season next season.
Nicky, I know if you get 100% fit, you'll be banging on the door for the first team start. Fingers crossed you stay fit and well and get ready for the new season. Thanks for joining us. Join us each weekday at 4 p.m. for Scottish football's biggest daily show, the PLZ Football Show Live. We have the biggest guests, regular exclusives and the best panel in the game. And because it's live, you can send your comments directly to the panel during the show. Just like and subscribe to make sure you never miss out. Join the winning team. Yes, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button, and of course you can like, share and follow as well. I think the burning issue, which we're getting from everywhere across YouTube and Facebook as well, is will Roughie take a fee for today, Hugh? I mean, it would be a brass. He's got a brass neck if he does. He's got a brass neck.
No, what will happen, Peter? He'll come in at the last minute. And say that counts. That counts as an appearance because I've come off the bench. Yeah. So I get my appearance money. You wait and see, Peter. They'll come in at the last minute.
You tell me you still can't hear me.
No, we can hear you. No, we can hear
Thank
you.
God for that.
But
I nearly
you're sure?
I nearly got arrested up in Tesco trying to get a battery. The boy stopped me, went, "How you doing, Roughie?" And I went, "Bug off."
Anyway, apart from, and the 9th Legion on YouTube says, "Hi, Roughie, how was the pub?" You know, but Roughie, I mean, honestly, do you know what's great, by the way? This is the God's honest truth. I tell you, I can't remember. There were 2 different stories, Hugh, but Tam Burns, he told me a great story. It's a great noise. I mean, you know what Fergus was like? Fergus, every penny, saved every penny. And eventually it got to the point where Tam was realising the end of the season, you know, him and Fergus are at loggerheads with each other. And he said, I knew some of the boys would get a bonus if they got on or they got an appearance just for coming on. So I used to put the subs on with about 2 minutes to go so they'd get a bonus. Wee Fergus was raging, and there's Roughie subbing in at the last minute so he can get an appearance fee. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I don't know, Hugh, do you think you would have handled the hard-hitting programme that we've had today?
Oh.
I don't know. I think that's part. I think honestly, see all this stuff about a battery and all that. I don't believe it. I think the old 5 o'clock sign behind him has been moved forward a couple of hours, Peter. Come on.
I wish it was the battery, Hugh.
Yeah, what was it?
It was. That'd have been easy. I haven't a clue. I haven't a Scooby.
Yeah.
Right,
okay.
Look at me.
Look at me.
I'm frazzled. I'm absolutely frazzled.
Well, listen, on a positive note, we've got you for the last 9 minutes, so we might as well get some opinion out of you. Okay. We've tried for 9 years, so let's get the gist of it all, which is quite simply championship.
Remember, watch what you're asking me now, because I'm rattled.
Yes, I know that. That's why I'm trying to get something that'll get you going mental, Roughie. Yeah. Championship, we've been talking about, Roughie, and the Premiership, obviously trying to adhere to the rules. Championship could be back for October 17th. And Roy McGregor says that he reckons with all the testing, 3,000 to 4,500, that's the figures that have been quoted for testing on a weekly basis.
It's good. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear everybody back as quick as possible. Obviously, SPFL, they're away ahead of it, and now the championship. Now the big question is, first and second division. Where are we there? I know I'm talking Partick Thistle. We're a full-time club. We need to be playing football. So the decisions have to be made. I don't know if you've noticed, we've already lost a couple of players who've invoked their contract to move on. So that'll just be the start, So the sooner. I know we want to get the big leagues going, but I think that we want to know the bigger picture more than anything.
And that's what we waited 50 minutes for, by the way. Just hard-hitting stuff there. There's no way you can argue with that, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah. And let me add, if it doesn't happen, there's going to be trouble.
yeah. Okay, anyway, listen, you're talking about that. You've lost your goalie, who has obviously invoked that. He will actually attract a fair bit of attention. Fox and Dario as well. What's his second name? Roughie? Zanata. That's correct. Thanks for the pronunciation. Dario Zanata as well has gone.
Yeah, I believe there's another 6 players who are out of contract. The club are obviously still paying their wages, but they'll have to make decisions as well. That's why I'm saying, I'm surprised the 2 have left without the league reconstruction being hit in the head. But maybe they just wanted to move on and try something else. But I'm sure there'll be lots of players for Ian McCall out there to have a look at, and you never know who you might pick up.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, Roughie, we were listening there to Nicky Devlin, who was talking about Livingston and Lyndon Dykes. Lyndon Dykes, he mentioned there, he says he could do a job for Celtic or Rangers. I wonder how much money Livingston will get for him, because the market has changed, Roughie, up here. Certainly doesn't look as if it's changing down south, but certainly changed up here. I wonder how much you could hold out for.
Oh, that's a big question, isn't it? We're talking about the big money players, valuation coming down. So, I don't know where you would start with him. But I tell you, as I said on the show a couple of weeks ago, this boy's twice the deal he was when I saw him with Queen of the South. He's come on leaps and bounds since he's got a game in the big time. And I wouldn't be surprised if a bigger club come along, because he's certainly got better and better, and we saw how much he puts himself about, how often he puts big players under pressure. So no, I think there'll be a few people looking at him.
Well, it's an interesting one, Hugh, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I'm going to be slightly controversial about it. Nicky Devlin was very, very positive about him and his qualities. He's the type of player that if he was going down south, he'd be a League One player. So is he a Celtic and Rangers player starter up here?
Yeah, well, that I would say maybe bottom end of the Championship, Peter, to be optimistic. He's a Celtic and Rangers starter up here because Nicky Devlin made the point that much of our football is equivalent to League One. So as having him there as an option against in domestic competition, I think would be attractive for Celtic and Rangers. What will push Celtic and Rangers in this is what happens elsewhere. Would Celtic need another centre forward if Edouard stayed? I don't think so, because they would have Kamala from Poland in the break. They would have Lee Griffiths, the Scottish international, and they would have Odsonne Edouard. Plus they would have other options that they could play at centre forward. Would Rangers need him? I think they would. I think it's more because even if Morelos stays, I think having just Defoe as a backup hurt Rangers last year, because what they really needed when Morelos was out was somebody with a great physical presence. And whatever the arguments about Defoe are, he's not got a fantastic physical presence in Scottish football. It wouldn't be a rumble him up centre forward. I was surprised that they didn't buy him in the winter break, and they went for Canberra instead, because I've watched Dykes. I had watched him a few times before the winter break, and I'd watched him against Julian, and I thought this is a guy that certainly is a possible for Celtic and should be really high on Rangers list.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think if Rangers were looking at a list, if he wasn't on it, Roughie, to give them a different style of option, I'd be gobsmacked. Of course, Celtic might do what they've done in the past, Roughie, which is just sign him, stick him on the bench, and deny Rangers the chance to get him.
Yeah, but I think Rangers have to watch what they're doing as well, because Rangers have delved into good players at other clubs. They've pinched players from Motherwell, and they haven't broken into that first team for whatever reason. They've been farmed out, or they just haven't made it into the first team. So it depends how much money you're going to start throwing about. If you're going to start throwing about money, you've got to take a chance that they will hit the first team eventually.
Michael Climey says, as a Rangers fan, I'd be more than happy for Rangers to go and get him. Spend the $2 million or whatever it would cost to get him. I think he'd be a great signing. I also think Lewis Ferguson would be a great signing for Rangers or Celtic. But primarily, I think the association would be with Rangers because of the two previous Derek Ferguson and Barry Ferguson playing for Rangers. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of other players sniffing about. I noticed Dundee United were talking about maybe Hugh getting Johnny Hayes and Kevin Nisbet. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that would be a fantastic double coup for Robbie Nielsen.
Well, you can imagine them having a front three of Nisbet, Shankland and Hayes. That would be a decent front three in the SPFL. I was slightly surprised that Celtic let Johnny go, because I think he offers everything on the left-hand side, from left back to left wing back to outside left. He'll give you a 6 or 7 performance every day of the week, sometimes an 8 or 9. He'll give you 10 commitment. So I was slightly surprised that he went, presumably because because I think there's still a great doubt over Bolingoli at left back. I still think there's room for Celtic to have an auxiliary left back at the club. But anyway, Dundee United have looked to have him now. Johnny will not be short of offers. He'll have offers in the Championship in England. Rumours that Stoke have been looking at him, Peter. That would make sense with the Michael O'Neill connection. I know he was Northern Ireland manager, but he keeps a very close eye on Scottish football. So I don't think it would be a done deal quite for Dundee United yet, but it's up to Johnny. Johnny will have plenty of offers. But Nisbet's a very interesting one as well.
The Times, Roughie, in the summer, if you were a football fan, you loved reading the pages of the newspapers, and now everybody will love the gossip of the social media right across the board about who's going to sign it. I mean, I always like to keep an eye on it and see what standard of player is going to come in. Will Hibs be able to buy a better standard of player? Will they have the bit between their teeth to try and go and snatch a bit of silverware? What's going to, who's going to be that force? Will it be Aberdeen? Will Motherwell be able to strengthen? In this market, it's going to be so difficult to call that. And the other aspect of this, I mean, I'm looking at Hibs at the moment, and this very day, Ruffy, in 2016, people have been crying out about it's 10 years today since Neil Lennon arrived at Celtic and signed on for proper as a manager. But in 2016, on this day, he was unveiled as the Hibs manager. And I thought he gave Hibs a totally different mindset as a club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you ask any of the players at Hibs at that time, that's exactly what they'll tell you. When he walked through the door, the level of professionalism, he had an ambition and a drive, and it rubbed onto the players. And you could see it on the park. I think John McGinn in particular said it had increased his game 100%. And that's what happens, when you get somebody in the head of the club that's got the drive. You either have to keep up with that level or you're at the door, and that's when the football improves, and that's exactly what Neil did at Hibs.
I thought, Peter, it was very interesting. We've had some fabulous interviews during the summer. I've really enjoyed so many of them, but wasn't the John McGinn one so intriguing and fascinating with some of the insights that he was giving? And he was talking about early on at Hibs that he and Neil Lennon were falling out and not seeing really eye to eye. But what the interesting thing about that was that how John didn't go in a huff about that. He learned from it and he moved on, and he learned to take that sort of robust criticism and bring it into his game. And I think it was really great. There was a couple of really good Neil Lennon interviews as well. Another good Neil Lennon interview here on PLZ when he was talking about his management style changing a bit as well, becoming more accommodating to players, become more understanding of players. So that was two insights for the summer about the whole mechanics of managing a top player and being a top player and reacting to management. I think Neil Lennon has moved on in managerial terms very significantly, Peter, over the last couple of years. I think he's become a top-class manager. Has he made mistakes? Absolutely. I think he would look at Cluj and Copenhagen and say that he perhaps didn't get his message across quickly to his team in terms of solidifying the game at certain points. But has he improved as a manager tactically and in management terms? Absolutely.
Yeah, John Adams says, is that the Nisbet that Thistle thought wasn't good enough and released him?
Yeah, you're right. You're bang on, Peter. I'd love to know who it was that made that decision, because he's another player year on year. He's matured. He looks the part. That fantastic goal he scored in the midweek game against for Dunfermline was superb. So no, he's a definite buy for somebody. I think Dunfermline will do well to hold on to him.
I wonder what you think about the market, Hugh, and where it's going. I mean, we know it's going to be not as strong up here. Certainly people won't be spending huge amounts of money. But down in England, I get the sense that they don't care.
Well, it all depends, Peter, because I think it was very interesting Liverpool's stance on this. Klopp has said that he'll be making no big moves at the moment. And I think the real big sign in that was Timo Werner. Over in Germany, there was a certainty. It was one of these no-brainers that Timo Werner was going to join Liverpool. It was all signed, sealed, and delivered. Klopp loved him. He was thinking Firmino was getting a wee bit older, needed to have a regular backup. He wasn't getting rid of Firmino, obviously, but he wanted to give him more support in that number 9 role. Werner was wanting to work under Klopp, and everything seemed to be pretty set up because it was a straightforward activate a release clause thing, Peter. So there didn't have to be too much negotiation between clubs. It was more one-on-one with the player. Players seemed happy to go to Liverpool. Liverpool seemed happy to win. And that's fallen down a hole. Now, at the same time, Chelsea, obviously Abramovich has got the toilet roll and hand sanitizer franchise for the rest of the world, because Chelsea are not only paying 53 million for him and 200 grand a week apparently, but now going to go for Kai Havertz, who's worth in excess of 70 million, and who Real Madrid are in. So there's that dichotomy in England, Peter. Some clubs are certainly going hard for it. Some clubs are just sitting on their hands. And some clubs like Manchester United are in the middle, because there's rumours now that what was reckoned to be another Bundesliga deal, Jadon Sancho to Manchester United, might not happen because Dortmund aren't going to reduce their price, which is €120, and Manchester United might not want to reach that. So I think going through individual clubs, it'll be different policies and different strategies.
Yeah, of course. When you sign a German, they can be a success. And I thought I'd put together a wee list of some of the Germans who have been a success in English football. Jurgen Klinsmann scored 20 goals in 41 top-flight games for Spurs after signing in 1994. He marked his debut goal against Sheffield Wednesday with his now trademark diving celebration. Klinsmann won the FWA Footballer of the Year in 1995 before leaving for Bayern Munich. He returned briefly in season 1997-98 to help the club avoid relegation by scoring 9 goals in 15 games. Jens Lehmann became an invincible when he helped Arsenal win the Premier League without losing a game in 2003-2004. The keeper also helped the Gunners lift the FA Cup in 2005 and reach the Champions League final in 2006. However, he was sent off after 18 minutes and Arsenal lost by 2-1 to Barcelona in the final. He left for Stuttgart in 2008 but returned briefly in 2011 during an injury crisis. Dietmar Hamann, the Liverpool midfielder, spent all but 4 years of his career in England. 7 years at Liverpool saw him win 2 FA Cups, 2 League Cups and the UEFA Cup. He was also part of the historic European Cup win over AC Milan in 2005. He joined Manchester City in 2006 and ended his playing career at MK Dons. Michael Ballack joined Chelsea on a free transfer from Bayern Munich in 2006. During 4 years at Stamford Bridge, he made 168 appearances and scored 25 goals. Ballack helped the Blues win the FA Cup and the League Cup in 2007. He also helped Chelsea lift the Premier League title in 2010 before leaving. Mesut Ozil signed for Arsenal from Real Madrid for a club record fee of £42.5 million in 2013. But just 3 FA Cup wins is a small return from the 2014 World Cup winner. The attacking midfielder has flattered to deceive during his time with the Gunners. Despite being wooed by his talents early on, Arsenal fans have been left frustrated with his attitude. Yeah, of all of them, Klinsmann for me is the star man. Ozil, I would punt him, I'd drive him back to Germany immediately.
Yep, I agree with you totally, but I'd put in a very high recommendation for perhaps one that would slip off people's radar, in Dietmar Hamann, who I think was instrumental in turning round the cup final in Istanbul. I thought Benitez for once got his tactics wrong, and the incursion of Hamann allowed Gerrard to put such a huge fingerprint on that game. But Klinsmann's an all-time great for me, Peter. You know that traditional number 9 role. But Ozil has been hugely disappointing.
I have 2 Germans, Roughie, in my all-time World 11. I wonder if you can name them.
I would think one would be Gerd Müller and the other one would be Beckenbauer. Yep,
absolutely. They're the only 2 Germans in my World 11, Roughie. Would you add any more to that?
No, just before we go on, I'd like to ask you to experts. I watched the England, Germany, West Germany World Cup final at Wembley today. It was on the telly. What age was Beckenbauer in that game?
Beckenbauer was very, very young. Very, very young. I would see he was either a late teenager or 20 or 21.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Because you've got to remember 8 years later, he was still, he played in another World Cup final, and he was only in his late 20s there. One of the things about Beckenbauer in that final, as you've watched it this afternoon, was that he was most miffed at helmet shown, because Beckenbauer was never encumbered by any lack of self-confidence, and he wanted to run the game. And Sean said to him, no, you follow Bobby Charlton everywhere. You man mark Bobby Charlton. So that's why they both actually, I think, nullified each other. I don't know if you agree.
Was there any reason why the pitch was in such a state?
Well, England had been constantly played on right through the tournament. England had played every game on it, Roughie.
Yeah, he was 20.
Wow.
20, right.
He would have been 21 in the September of that year. So
I was bang on.
Well, you were right on the money, Hugh. That's why you're here. Yeah. You know, you're one of the top men for all this memorabilia nonsense. Anyway, apart from anything else, it's been an interesting programme, Hugh, because we've had our usual. We have a special guest. We've debated some of the most hard-hitting points of you on this programme, and then we've had maybe 3 sentences tops from the big man there, but he'll want top dollar for it.
No.
When you said you had a special guest, were you referring to Roughie or Nicky Devlin?
In fact, Nicky Devlin actually spoke
Roughie
on the show.
Nicky Devlin's not been to any World Cups.
Yeah, it's a good point actually. But there's not many can beat you on that. In fact, we've had actually 2 or 3 Roughie who've come on the programme who've actually been to 3 World Cups as well of our guests.
Joe Jordan.
Yep.
With Joe on.
Yep.
Kenny's been on. Kenny's
been on 3 times, so we had Kenny on as well, and he's been to 3 World Cups. But there's been a few that have been to 3 World Cups. We'll need to get our thinking caps on with regards to that. Also, thanks to so many people who obviously have put in some messages, which is really, really good. Fergus Kelly says, this show's all about Livingston. That's all he's ever talk about, Livy. It's a standing joke now on the show, Robbie, isn't it? When you start talking about somebody. Thanks to Lindsay Buchanan as well, Dougie Liddle and Hugh Hepburn, and lots of people Ross Fulton, John Stralecki. There's lots of people who join us every day. Look out for our new commercial, which obviously gives you an indication. You've probably seen it on the show earlier, but if you get a chance and you see it, don't forget to like, share and follow, and subscribe to us on our YouTube channel as well. And if you see the advert, share it around with everybody else, because we're spreading the word. The figures for the show, it's been absolutely magnificent. It's great that we've got some great panellists and we've got some great guests coming on, all wanting to talk about football. That's what it's all about. And as you can see from quite a lot of our messages, we do deal with the subjects, the touchy ones, give you an opinion on them, and have a bit of banter as well. And we want you to try and pass along the fact that it's a football family here. Come and join it if you want to talk about your favourite team. That's the message you and I have been thumping on about, Roughie, for about 8 years. And may I add, quite significant, of the 8 years, coming up in July will be our anniversary of the big launch, Roughie. The boyo there next to you was there at the start with us as well, Roughie, because we had to sign him immediately. Well, I was going to stiffen you. That was fun. You remember that, Hugh? I had to coach you into the signing.
No, but the great thing is Peter, I always say you should be you should be one of these people that's up for beatification because you put up with me and Roughie for 8 years. So good on you.
Yeah, hey, I'll tell you, it's been absolutely magnificent. I couldn't have picked two better people to get into the trenches with. Believe me, we've been through thick and thin together, and we always like to talk about football, go to football, see Roughie kick out the electricity in the football, take us off air within 1 week of us going on. So I could chart it all with Roughie's catastrophes all the way through. It's been brilliant, but I wouldn't have it any other way, believe me. Apart from anything else, great to have you on board. Like, share and follow us if you can. Subscribe to us if you've got the chance. And from Hugh McDonald, from Alan Ruffin, from myself, Peter Martin, thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit Arnold Clark